Oh, you can see the women taking dumps in the bathroom? Oh! Why can you see into the bathroom? The women are taking big steaming dumps. Look, she's heaving on it. She's like, oh! Oh, she's trying to get it out. Oh! Oh! Why are they showing that? They should totally fix that. You don't want to see that. What the heck is going on?
Hello, and welcome to James, the Let's Express Lane, where we get you in and out as fast as possible with Ethan Ralph, host Doody of Doody Streams over on Rumble. Let's watch for a little bit.
Are you there? Yes, hit the thumbs up. Mary Jane is correct. I could hear you there for a second. And now I can't hear you again. So I'm not sure if this is a game that's being played or just your mic's fucked up or what.
Much like with DSP, there's going to be tech issues with these little cows.
But yeah, like I said, I've been using the word Ralphologist. The Ralphologist knew you were okay. Well, there were a few good friends of mine who are actually like, what's going on?
You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's up?
What's up, Ethan? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm off on my vacation, so I'm doing good.
All right, cool. Cool. Back to the grind or on your vacation?
No, back to the grind.
Back to the grind. Okay, that's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
Well, first off, for those who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself to the Killstream audience?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Doody Streams, essentially a DSP detractor, and that's really about it. There's not more to say.
Really, that is, you know what? I'd have to agree. I mean, really, there is nothing more to say. Although, well, I have a few things to say. Now, so you...
Yeah, let's hear what those few things are. This is going to get good.
I never really had a problem with you. I think we interacted a few times on Twitter. I had an arc with DSP where I was talking shit back and forth with him a few months ago. It's not a big deal to me because, you know, it's kind of a casino back thing, right? Like, I didn't take it seriously. I talked about a fuck DSP festival, but honestly, and my mic, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Oh, if it gets too loud, let me know. But
you're good on my end.
Okay, but my heart wasn't in something like that anyway, because I really, and this is not like I see what's going on here. The game is turned up. Okay, now it should be fine. But heart wasn't in it because I kind of knew what was going on anyway. It's kind of being set up to go against me for content for the casino. And then I don't really know the DSP lore. This is not...
And that's why you're friendly with him. If you knew the lore, you want to be friendly with him.
To insult him either. I just haven't really followed all the, you know, supposed controversies and all this stuff. And it would have taken a lot of research and all this. And so I just didn't feel like
it's not for everyone.
Yeah,
it's not for everyone. It can be extremely boring. And I know I get a lot of, I don't know how you can watch so much of his content. You must drive yourself insane. But there's a lot of gold dust in there. And we go in and we dig that gold dust and provide it in a kind of, make it palatable.
Watching with others makes it a lot easier
For people.
Well, so my thing is, I mean, I don't really understand. First off, let me explain. So I was doing the show with DSP. We did the show. I thought it went well. I think he even said that in a video he posted today. He thought it went well. And we'll see how it goes later on, if it continues or whatever. But did get tired towards the end. That's true.
DSP felt it went well because you got to keep all the money. That's right. All the money he made during that stream, none of it went to Ralph. Womp womp.
A wild weekend as well. That's also true. But I thought the show itself went well. Now, you messaged me, and I take pretty much all DMs, right? Somebody like, hey, here, DM me. So, and you were like, well, here's a few tips. You mentioned somebody in chat that everybody likes that goes to wrestling. You mentioned a few, not even negative things about Phil, just, you've observed him for a while. So, of course, I didn't say anything that I wouldn't say in public because I assumed, that something like what ended up happening would happen. So I didn't say anything that I regret or anything like that. But I was like, well, hey, here's a guy who knows DSP, right? All right, I'll listen, I've never worked with him before. And so we had a back and forth. Actually, the only tip of yours that I used officially was that guy in the chat.
Jade.
And Lev.
Jaden. And
yeah,
you also
yes. I'm not trying to insult him. I just forgot the name for a sec.
Yeah, his name's Jade. But no, you also did provide advice. You said, hey, Phil definitely enjoys getting his ego stroke. If you can mention his content creation, all of his years of service, he loves that. And I think you did mention that. You sprinkled that a little bit here.
I mentioned that, but it wasn't from you really. I mentioned that because I think, and you also said, well, he trashed the detractors, which I did do that, but I had always planned on doing that because I think it's just kind of weird in the first place. I guess back when Phil,
I mean, it can be kind of weird, but hey, it's entertaining. Is it any worse than watching reality TV?
consider we talked about this, me and him some, when he considered himself the king of hate or whatever, and he was doing all this and that. All right, maybe that makes sense. I don't really understand the whole hate DSP industry. I understand the hate Ralph industry very well, but I don't really. I guess I just don't really get it. I mean, maybe people don't believe him that
Because you
he's
don't
trying to
know
do
the
positive
lore.
streams, but and I don't watch him all the time. I don't get to watch many people, that often at all because I stream a lot. But,
Before we get into that, I know that me and you already talked. Can I just say outright, yeah, I wanted to first of all apologize because I did share a screenshot of our conversation,
hold
and
on.
at the time when I
Anonymous
did it,
sent
I didn't think it
$5
was
tequila sunrise
inappropriate.
vibes.
But after having a
Love the
conversation
early
with you and
start
seeing how you
time.
felt about it, I said, all right, maybe that's something I shouldn't have done.
Well,
So first of all, I wanted to come here and apologize, just like I did in DMs in our phone
you
conversation.
did apologize, and I don't think there are places for sharing DMs. I try to make that a thing that I do sparingly, only if it's like provable that somebody's lying about you or something like that, right? And it's like, well, here's the
Yeah.
DMs. This guy's lying about me. Boom, boom, boom. And you shared it, and I watched your show, and you were talking about, well, Ralph's uncontrollable. You acted like you knew a lot more about me than you did when we first talked. Let's put it that way. And Ralph's uncontrollable, and here's all the tips I gave him, and
He is kind of uncontrollable. But hey, that's Raw for you.
I'm the mastermind. Now, I don't know. You were possibly joking about some of that stuff, the mastermind and all this, because the show was gonna happen regardless. Like that was something that
No,
I
that
masterminded
wasn't
actually.
that
But
wasn't my intent. To be honest, the reason why I wanted to give you some advice and wanted you to actually get the spot was because I thought you would be the most interesting. Now we talked about this, and I told you, I said, look, I thought the show was boring, not because you were boring. It was about wrestling. And I
yes,
thought it was gonna be a little bit more than wrestling. I thought it was gonna kinda be what him and PPP had, where he came on, yes, you talked about wrestling for a good portion of the deal, but then, you guys probably gonna get into the conversation about his detractors, your detractors, and have some back and back.
But I'm guessing DSP squashed that real quick. No, this isn't gonna be like with PPP. I don't want any more grill fail.
That's what I thought was gonna occur. When you started getting like I'll give you one example, 1.1 there. When you started talking about the women, you weren't saying anything gross or whatever. You were just talking about how beautiful certain women are,
sure.
and he cut you off. And I thought that was perfectly fine because we all can agree a big component of wrestling is sexuality, sexualizing women. That's always been a thing for wrestling. So I thought it was appropriate. And then he cut you off because for whatever reason, whether
Well,
he's
my
asexual,
conversation
whether
went
he's
into a
gay,
little sternish territory. You might say 90s stern territory, and I think he even
Okay.
said it on this video, and we'll watch it later. That he felt like, well, maybe it went a little too far to one direction, but also that it also kind of meshed because it was more like the old Phil, sexualizing women, and here's me here bringing back a little bit of that old flavor. So yeah, I mean, I sexualize women on a daily basis as they should be. Now, perhaps I took it a little too far, but
A little too far for DSP is just mentioning women exist. Guys, I'm married.
I don't think I went way over the line with anything I was saying there.
I don't
The
think
ass
so either. But I
straps, and
mean,
I might have mentioned a certain other thing about asses and stuff like that. But I also think that Phil, I've been married, and I won't go into current marital status or not, but I've been married. Let's just put it that way. And I think some people, I never changed my style, whether I was married or maybe still am. Who knows? Whatever. I never changed my style as far as sexualizing women. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm married now. I can't talk about how hot this chick is, or I want to bang her, or whatever. Now, I think some people feel that that's disrespectful not to change your style. Phil's married. That's my understanding, right? I don't. Yeah. So
He knows so little about Phil, he doesn't even know that Phil's married. You're gonna be doing a partnership on this show, whatever, working together, and you have no idea if he's married or not. Good to know, Ethan. Good to know.
I think maybe, and I don't speak for him, obviously, but I think maybe some of that's like, oh, okay, like I don't, my wife might say this, and Rob's getting a little frisky here, talking about some of the females, and I think that maybe that was some of it, but I also think he said in his video, it kind of did mesh well to a certain extent, maybe bring it down a notch. I don't even disagree with that take really, but we're two different personalities, and one of my personalities or traits is to be the shock jock who sexualizes women, and I mean they're there for, except for the lovely Lily Gaddis, who's a political commentator. But I mean, she's pretty, let's be real. And so I don't sexualize her because she's a guest on the show. So I have different rules for female guests on the show, right? Like she's treated with respect because even though I don't think it's disrespectful to sexualize women, I don't go, hey, smash your pass, Lily, da, 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 da. You know,
What the fuck?
she's a respected member of the Killstream cast here, so I don't do that. I guess I have a different rule for women who appear on the show, if you will, if that makes
No, I
sense.
understand. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
You afford her that respect because she's a colleague. Yeah, I understand.
Right. She's a guest on the show, and so that's why I do that. But yeah, I mean, he did cut me off, but I don't necessarily blame him. I was getting a little, it was getting a little ribald, to use a certain word there. But I thought the show itself went great, but it was always going to be a wrestling show. I think people had this in their mind that I was going to grill Phil or go in on that or do all this, and that was never.
But I'm sure DSP told him straight up, don't you dare grill me. No grilling. Don't hurt me.
My intention. My intention was to do a wrestling show. If you looked at the numbers, and he did. Of course, the view botting and all that stuff doesn't get counted anyway. They automatically just knock that off. It was the highest. Now, part of it was because of our first collab. He said the same thing. But you know, it was the highest rated episode of his show since it's come back. Smart guys. So I think, you know, I don't really care about the grill Phil stuff. I don't have anything to grill him about, right? So I wasn't there to do that. I was there to genuinely talk about wrestling, some of my knowledge. I dropped a couple old school wrestling stories and references for the old heads who may know some of those references, etc. But I was always there to talk wrestling. Now, except for the first 30 minutes, of course, you know, I'm gonna get my shots in on the 800-pounder who can't walk further than 20 feet, and
that was the best part of the show. Honestly, just from my perspective, that was the best part of the show. I think you guys can interlace the two. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. That was my view. That was my opinion. Now, I know the show was successful. You guys had a lot of views. Phil made some money. That's all good. That's all good and dandy. But I guess when you hear me criticize the show, I hope you understand that I'm criticizing it from a detractor point of view. Like I really thought you guys were going to I knew you were going to talk about wrestling because it is a wrestling show. But I did think you guys were going to interlace a little bit of drama. And when I didn't see it and I saw 3.5 hours of just wrestling, that's where I'm kind of like, all right, well.
Well, I mean, I came there to talk wrestling.
I get you came there to talk wrestling, but it's with a low cow. If people want wrestling commentary or discussion, there's professionals out there to go to. If you're going to a low cow for this, you're going to the low cow for the drama, for the stupidity, for the stuff you're not going to get from professionals.
I kept trying to tell people that, and they're like, "What's your secret plan, Ralph?" And I'm like, "There is none."
Yeah, exactly.
There is
Who
none.
believe that?
Almost nobody believed me. And I'm like, there was no secret plan. I came to talk wrestling, dude. Like, that's literally why.
Neither did I. And that's why I had the view I had. Like, I wasn't shitting on you or I wasn't shitting on Phil about the show. It's just I had an expectation. It didn't come to fruition. I guess my fault or whatever. But I think the vast majority of the internet felt the same way I felt. You were going to go in there. Yes, you were going to talk about wrestling. But you were going to do, what's it called? The Ralph Mail. You were going to kind of go in on Phil a little bit. Pull back because, yes, it is YouTube. But we were going to get some of that.
But why would I go in on Phil? By the way, I see this Otuwu, whoever the fuck in chat says Ralph is monologuing again. I'm the host of the show, and so that means I can monologue at any point. I don't know if you guys understand that or not. That's how the host.
And I'm a guest.
Right. Now I like to let the guest speak, but to be clear, I can go off on monologues at any time because it's my program.
I'm happy to speak.
But I'm just addressing this dumbass in the audience who thinks that's a flaw. Well, yeah, I'll monologue anytime I damn well please. But I don't know why. Why did you think I would go at Phil?
Because of who you are. You're Ethan Ralph. You have internet beefs with many people. You know what I mean? And
but not with him.
I'm not saying that you were going to go after him, like attack him. No. What I was going to say were you were going to want to understand the lore a little bit. I assume you knew some of the lore, like some of the big stuff that kind of occurred in the background, or even maybe talk about what happened with PPP and him. You heard that, right? You saw that. You saw that drama where Phil leaked the DMs, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the DMs, but I thought we were going to get a little bit of that. I read most of
them, yeah. And I see Nady Bakes, and he's right. Like, I'm a wrestling fan at all times, and he says Ralph even holds back on wrestling talk on the kill stream. Now, we talk about it some, but not as much because I understand people are here for politics. They're here for the drama. They're here for, you know, whatever.
Yes, the drama. That's what people were expecting with this. Because, again, you can go to professionals to talk about wrestling. If you want something that's not professional, you go to the locals.
I want to talk about that day, right? News, etc., interviews, right? So I hold back on that on this show. So I think some people from the Killstream audience were actually interested to hear a long form discussion from me about wrestling, which I don't really do hardly ever on this show because I know it turns some people off because some people are not here for the wrestling, right? There's a certain segment that love it, but you know,
I mean, even on that wrestling show, we weren't there for the wrestling. We were there for you to be the Ralph male, as they say, and you weren't, which was very disappointing.
A lot don't. So I think that was part of the appeal. I thought Phil and I clicked pretty well. The last 30 minutes, I was getting pretty sleepy. There's no doubt about that. And he admitted that, and we talked
Sleepy.
about it after. And I'm like, look,
Can I
man.
ask what happened there? Can I ask what happened there? I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. I understand.
Well,
I'm
I
just curious.
was tired.
I did
I
notice.
mean, that was the basic point of it. I'd been streaming. Well, I started streaming at
He left for a few minutes, came back, and was slurring his words. He was either high or drunk or both.
5. Now, usually I stream, 8-10 hours at a time. Not that big a deal, but I had to go around Merida that day as well. And then I also did, let's see, about 5 hours before our show, and then another 3 hours. So I'd had like a 14, 15-hour day. Now I know everybody wants to say, I'm fucked up or whatever. I don't really care about that. I mean, I care about not being fucked up. I think you can tell that I'm not fucked up right now. Yeah, we talked about that. I didn't hear Phil accuse me of any malfeasance or anything like that. I think he seemed pretty happy with the show, and if it continues, great. If not, that's cool too. I will say you were one of the guys. You're like, hey, you ought to get a piece of the money from this show.
You should
And
have.
I don't know if people understand. Now, if we did a full time, week to week show, yeah, I would expect a cut of the money. Now, but that's not really what that was, right? That was a tryout, like you said. That's what it was. I didn't mind him keeping the money. I knew he would make a pretty good amount of money that day because it was the collab people wanted to see. I wasn't really worried about the money at all.
But it was
And even
boring.
a couple other people had brought it up. And then, I mentioned it and he's just like, and I'll tell you flat out what he told me. He said, look, this is tryouts. I haven't offered or anybody asked for any money off these. And I don't even know for sure if I'm going to do the show after. And, if that's a problem for you, I can go ahead and reshuffle and get the guy in from the week after. And it's no big deal. I'm not going to badmouth you, not going to trash you. And, I thought that was a fair response. I had every opportunity to turn it down. I'd already made my money off my show that day. So it's like, it was more about exposing myself to another audience.
I say, if some of DSP's whales go over to Ralph Mail, that'd be hilarious.
Doing a big collab that I think a lot of people wanted to see and talk wrestling, really. So it wasn't about the money for me. Now, going forward, if we end up being partners or whatever, yeah, I'm sure there'll be some kind of split. But I don't work for free forever. It was kind of a one-off type deal or whatever. But I don't think that there was any malfeasance, and I see a lot of the detractors. I'm like, well, Ralph should have got.
No, I didn't say that.
No,
I
you didn't say that, but some people did,
said,
and then they're like, well, Ralph should have at least got the Keebler card. You guys know I was joking about the at least I hope that was clear. That I was joking about the key. It would cost more money to send the card to Mexico than the card is worth, most likely. So,
it's not about you. But when you hear stuff like that, they're kind of slamming Phil because Phil used to bitch and complain about doing giveaways, and used to claim that it cost $100 to ship a fucking case, a video game case, to Europe. So that's what it is. They're mocking Phil, not you. The only reason why I didn't say shit about the money as it relates to Phil scamming you. I didn't say that at all. What I did say was, for myself as a working practice, like if I have a guest on and no money was talked about, right? If I did very well, I would reach out to them just for myself. I'd reach out and say, hey, let me give you something because I appreciate you being out. And I figure, okay, this is a good way to cultivate a relationship. Be like, all right, you got my back. You hooked me up. I want to give you a little bit of cash just as a simple thank you. That way, the next time I need someone to come on again, you're more than likely to be more receptive because, there's like a give and take going on in that relationship. That was the only thing I said. And knowing Phil and his past issues with people, content creators and shit like that, Project 7, and a couple other issues that go on with Phil, I figured he probably didn't even make the offer. He wouldn't even offer it. So that was my criticism, not on you, not on the deal. It's just like, if it was me personally and I made over $400, I'd be reaching out to the person that was there and say, hey, here's a little something. I appreciate you.
But see, we discussed it like men beforehand, and I had every opportunity to say no. Right, and it wasn't all about. First off, it was about the collab, about talking wrestling. It was also about big platform here on YouTube. I knew a lot of people would be watching. No, I'm not actually banned from YouTube. He repeated that lie, which is not the case. I'm technically banned from owning a channel, although they pretty much relaxed most of those rules anyway. And you said you had to do something heinous to get banned off YouTube, which is actually not the case. I raised $27,000 for St. Jude and somebody made a Holocaust joke in a super chat, and the Wall Street Journal wrote a front page story about it in 2018. That's how I got banned off YouTube. The national news media
Damn.
took me down
Are
off
you?
YouTube. So I mean, if you
Sure.
consider that heinous, I don't know, but
Listen,
it doesn't really, especially back
I
then, it didn't take much to get banned from YouTube.
Ethan, I hope you understand that when I'm on a podcast and I'm talking about things, right? I got to make it a little bit interesting. I got to bring up stuff. I got to exaggerate some things here and there. And
Well, when
if
I
I
hear the
say
word
that,
heinous, I'm like, okay, well,
oh,
it
well, I
wasn't
mean,
actually heinous. Actually, it was heinous what was done to the cancer kids since they refunded that $27,000. And yeah, the show was a little wild, no doubt, but I mean, it was for a good cause.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know, the whole thing rose me the wrong way to this day. And so, yeah, that was definitely something that I took note of, that you
Yeah, they'll be making Holocaust jokes. Just saying.
said that, right?
And
And
to be honest, I think we've talked about this. I don't know that much of your background. I know who you are. I've heard about the sector and stuff like that. I don't follow you. I don't follow
And don't forget, he got his ass beat when he was in Portugal.
your past. So I don't know much about you. So, a lot of what I'm hearing is just secondhand stuff that I hear from other shows or whatever. So, I'll clearly admit that. And I think I told you that when we had a conversation. I said, yeah, I know about you and stuff like that. And I think when we initially started talking, I said, hey man, I got no beef with you. I'm here to just offer you some advice about Phil because I genuinely wanted you to be the host because I thought you would probably make it more interesting. That was me. Like I'm looking at this
well,
strictly
I'd
from
seek
a
advice, almost against my own instinct because it's like, well, I'm talking to a anti-Phil guy, but it's also like, well, I'll talk to anybody, and if he has some insight that might help me in my broadcast, appearance with Phil, all right, I'll listen. And there were a couple things there that I think did. Now, a few of the other things were always going to happen, like I said, shitting on PPP and
I
stuff
know.
like that,
But
right?
there was
Like
no
that.
ill intent. That's what I want you to
Yeah, I
understand.
mean,
There was no ill intent with
the only
anything
other
else.
thing was the screenshot, and it was like, well, I masterminded this, and I puppet mastered Ralph, and that doesn't really happen. I don't know that that's ever happened, but it doesn't happen very often if it does. So yeah, I just happened to be watching your show when I saw that, which is funny because I probably wouldn't have seen it otherwise. I was like, let me turn this on, see what, because I knew you'd be talking about me and him, right? So I was like, oh, let me
Yep.
see, and then you're showing DMs, and like you didn't go through everything. Not that
No,
I care. You can put them all out if you want. There's
no,
nothing in there
I
that's
don't. I
bad,
don't.
but.
So can
Um,
I clear that up real quick? So I think the segment you're talking about is I was answering a question about the money. And somebody was asking me a question about the money. I said, "Oh, he didn't get anything." And he didn't get anything. And this was after the podcast and after Phil talked about it, right? And I pulled up the DM that we had where you had mentioned no, there's no money. And that was kind of now I left it up. I should have taken it down. So I was kind of answering the question, kind of showing someone. In hindsight now, I understand how you feel and I
But I
apologize
told
for that.
people
I fucked
already
up. I shouldn't
publicly
have
that
done
I wasn't gonna cut
that.
off that,
Exactly. So I
right?
didn't
Like
that's
so.
why
I don't get why would you do that? DSP made like $400 and you got none of it. Not even the States Tequila card.
But
that's why
still,
I
it's
didn't
just
think it
the
was a
showing of the
big
DM. It's like, all right,
But that's why I didn't think it was a big deal. Like,
yeah,
I didn't think like it was like, oh, I was sharing DMs, I was showing our because we did have some conversations in there where you told me a couple things, I told you a couple things, not anything major or whatever, but
no.
I wasn't gonna. And the other thing too is I hear, oh, Doody leaked all the. I didn't leak shit. Nobody got any of the DMs. The only thing you would see is a screenshot. And then after we talked, and I apologized to you, and I said, my bad, I fucked up. Let me rectify it. I took it down. I edited out the video. I took it down because I just didn't want to make it available. I took down the stream completely. I edited the clip. I just took down the stream completely because I was just like, all right, I just don't want any drama. I fucked up. I apologize to Ethan. So
Yeah, and you
that's
did.
it. So,
You
yep,
did.
yep, I did. When I
To be
fuck up,
honest, open up. Yeah.
when I fuck up, I'm more than happy to apologize. Like when I realized I fucked up and I'm more than happy to apologize. I'm not one of those people that are prideful that feel like, oh, I'm gonna get my fuck all that nonsense. If I fuck up and I screw you and I screw you over, whether by accident or on purpose, and you call me out for it, and I realize, oh yeah, you know what, I did fuck up. I'm gonna apologize. It's perfectly fine.
Now, if you guys want to watch the whole thing on your own, I'll link down below. Check it out. I thought it was pretty interesting. And as always, like, subscribe, comment down below, and have one hell of a day.